And the methodologies are overlay, checklist, matrix, and network. And all my geography friends will be very comfortable with this, like we do the overlay. So many parameters. I will tell you just because of the development of the GIS, geographical information system, and with the development of the computer, these things people try to realize these methodologies and could do something for the EIA. One of the thing is the overlay. Overlay, you already know. This is the overlay methodology. We have so many layers and which can be buffered and scoped and can be integrated. The another one is checklist. The very simple or complex list of environmental components or attributes, processes which are categorized under the disciplinary headings such as geology, vegetation, and air. And GIS provides a computer platform for organizing, storing, and analyzing this checklist. Then comes the matrix, which is a modification of checklist, facilitates relating to specific project activities to specific type of impacts. And then comes the network. The network methodology defines a network of possible impacts that may be triggered by the project activities that require analysts trace out the project's actions and direct and indirect consequences. And the advantage of this is this method cut across the disciplinary lines. So many sociology, economics, anthropology, it forces the identification of site-specific factors and conditions necessary for establishment of a proposed cause and effect relationship. Very, very important in environmental impact assessment, so also in social impact assessment. These are some of the sketchy examples of matrix method. You are all conversant with. I'll show you in the end with the case study examples. The checklist method, which have all the parameters in one side, and the various effects on the right hand side. This is also another way of looking at the things. And this is a bit complex one where you find out the cause and effect relationship is called the network methods. And later on will come into examples when you discuss about the case studies. And this key environmental impact assessment concept bases on the baseline situation and then impact and defining the activities. This baseline situation is not a snapshot over time. The groundwater level shows the both variability and trend over time. And impact of activities change from the baseline situation caused by the activities. And activities, these are accomplishment of or output. For example, road, seedling production, river diversion to irrigated land, etc. Then we move to social impact assessment. Can be defined as the process of assessing or estimating in advance the social consequences that are likely to follow from specific policy actions or project development, particularly in the context of appropriate national, state, or provincial environmental policy legislation. Social impacts include all social and cultural consequences to human population of any public or private action that alter the way in which people live, work, play, relate to one another, organize to meet their needs, and generally cope as members of society. For the information of the audience, I would like to highlight that SIA was not there in the initial phases of EIA. Because if you look at this definition, how complex it is always overlooked. It is always overlooked even in disaster management, social side, which is intangible, and very difficult to calculate. Very difficult to calculate. It's not that tangible. So many things and so many cumulative impacts are there. If we look at some of the industrial towns in the tribal belt, you'll have the example that has been included later on, but there is a lot of drawbacks. It has been not carried out in the true sense, but it is already there. Let us see the concept. It provides the direction, understanding and managing and controlling the change, the prediction, the identification, development, and implementation of mitigation strategies in order to minimize the potential social impacts, the development and implementation of monitoring program to identify the unanticipated social impacts, the evaluation of social impact caused earlier development project, technological change, and specific technology and government policy. If you look at the principles, whether it is done or not, huge SIA practitioners, trained social scientists employed should be employed. Then you will get the result. Establishing monitoring and mitigation programs. Identify data sources. Use on published social scientific literature, secondary data, primary data. Plan for gaps in data. And these are the participants. NGOs, state sectors, private government, private sector, special interest group, locals, NGOs, etc. And framework of sustainability based on social justice, economic justice, and ecological justice, just like our sustainable principles of sustainable development. The tasks of SIA includes assessment and prediction, mitigation and monitoring, audit and analysis. And the conceptual methodological approaches of SIA includes assessment and prediction, mitigation and monitoring, audit and analysis. Because of paucity of time, I'm just skipping. This is a new concept used, so you can the details from me. The profile includes the initial phases in an SI project is problem analysis, system analysis, baseline analysis, trend analysis, and project design, where the main phase includes scenario design, design of strategies, assessment of impacts, reporting, stimulation, auditing, etc. Typology, we have at the micro level analyzing the impact of large number of individuals and demographic impact assessment, analyzing impact at organizational level, analyzing impacts on social macro system at national and international politics and legal systems. And the states include public involvement, identification of alternatives, baseline conditions, scoping, prediction of response to impacts, estimate the indirect and cumulative impacts, change in alternatives, mitigation, monitoring, and evaluation. These are the details. And the variables include like population change, lot of variables, which include social impact assessment, influx of temporary workers, presence of seasonal residents, dislocation, changes in composition. Then comes community and institutional arrangements, attitudes, interest group activities, change in local government, planning and zoning changes, etc. Then communities in transition includes outside interest, new social class, change in industries, change in housing costs, etc. And individual level disruptions in living and movement of pattern, new religious practices, and changes in leisure activities, etc. And then comes the fundamental issues in SIA. These are the problem. Who have the legitimate interest in the community? That is one of the question is to be answered. How is the affected community to be defined? What should the role of community participation in SIA? What impacts are to be considered? How the impact should be weighed? Who judges? And decision about the projects are ultimately and inevitably political. That is the whole problem in impact analysis. There are some problems like difficulties in applying the social science with SIA, difficulties with the SIA process itself, because of, as you know already, when you compare between basic science and social science, we always as a disadvantageous position in research and etc. because they are confined to the laboratory. Their parameters or variables are controlled, and we have to many times go to the society, go to the village, go to the towns, go to the people, and very difficult to do the things on the field. That's why social science studies and sociology tend to be critical and discursive rather than predictive and explanatory like physics, chemistry, and mathematics. So difficulty in process itself. And just I give examples of the linkages between health hazards and development. Is one aspect of social impact assessment is transport systems, communicable diseases, conduct of the distribution of communicable diseases such as occurred in HIV infection in truck drivers, women working in bars in Uganda, people who migrate in such work are especially at risk. And then another example is Trans-Amazon Highway and malaria. During 1970s, half of the malaria cases in Amazonia were linked to the narrow area of influence of the Trans-Amazon Highway. The malaria mosquito became the more abundant because forest clearance provided new breeding sites. The parasite was transported to the region by migrants. Then another is also mining and critical lungs damage. You already know this. Miners frequently work in confined spaces that are heavily laden with rock dust. For example, or culture example. So these are the Kivata Brazili during 1980s. There are 23 major industrial plants and many small operations. A high rate of respiratory disorders was associated with high levels of water and air pollution. Neonatal mortality and birth deformity also increased. Okay, now we move to the case studies. Okay, now move to a few case studies which is very rare to very difficult to get. And the most difficult I collected one with the, this is one connecting to the railway project, Khurda Road to Balangir railway project. And the present study are comprising of 15 villages under Sonpur Tahsil of Subhanpur district. This is one case study. These are all some of the informations like location map, Google map, and the team methodologies you are starting from review of literature to preparation of social impact management plan. And one of the important thing of this institutional policy framework, which is based on RFT-CT-LARR Act of 2013, right to fair compensation and transparency in land acquisition, rehabilitation, and resettlement Act of 13. And one of the section in this states, whenever the government intends to acquire the land for a public purpose, it shall consult the concerned Gram Panchayat, municipality, or municipal corporation, as the case may be, at village level, ward level, in the affected area, and carry out a social impact assessment study in consultation with them. It's all available in net online. You can check it. And these are the, it includes study, social SI study includes assessment, whether the proposed acquisition serve the public, estimation of affected families, whether the extent of land proposed for acquisition is absolute bare minimum extent needed to the project. All of these details are inside that. And this is also part of that policy framework. We don't have much time to go. And these are all the sections and its descriptions, which are available on the net. You can check it. I'm just showing for your glance of this. The things are goes like this. These are acts, rules, legal provisions, objectives, institutions. Public consultation is mandatory. Outlines of the focus group discussion, which was carried out there. All topics includes like health, sports, shops, drinking water, etc. These are some of the photographs. Impacts discussed in various ways. No time to go the details of this. Impact during pre-construction phase, during construction of the projects, during the influx of construction workers, and these are some of the results of that case study. Income restoration assistance, person of family is eligible for employment, etc., etc. These are the conclusions from the people side. These are the core conclusion of that case studies. Community is hopeful of improvement in their life and livelihood due to the launching of this railway line, etc. Students and youths are very much enthusiastic about the new railway route. Even the women are happy. Therefore, it will not be beneficial to more than 65,93,673 people of these connecting 6 districts, but also for the whole state and the country. So this is how they conclude of the project. Their contribution for the nation building shall be well recognized by the state and the country as a whole. I could not read out the whole conclusion because it takes a lot of time. This is another also case study of an expansion of a project of a power plant in Thiaberna in Sundargarh district. The case study belongs to a mining and industrial project located in Sundargarh. In order to carry out the detailed environmental impact assessment of the project, various layers of the environmental parameters for the 10-kilometer buffer zone around project site were generated in a GIS environment. I'll show you the diagram. By taking information from various secondary sources as well as primary sources like remote sensing and field survey. And the land use, land cover, and hydrogeomorphology layers were generated from satellite images through the digital cum visual interpretation technique. As you all, our geography fraternity will be very acquainted with this technique. They know all this. And these are the, snapshots of this buffering of all these transport network, drainage surface water bodies, land cover, land use, geology, digital elevation, digital surface modeling, digital surface model, integrated topographical maps. Then another project was Odisha State Road Development Project. This is basically, I was also involved, partly in this project in the field work. Upgradation, widening of 26 route in OSRP, phase 2, phase 3, which are widely dispersed in location throughout the state. The study needed proper planning before starting any field work. Most of the information regarding the baseline environmental conditions were planned to collect from authentic secondary sources. However, extensive field visit was also planned. The primary field work was also planned to collect public opinion regarding the impact of the project on environmental parameters. The primary survey targeted to immediate impact area of the project routes, which cover 20 meters on both sides of the existing roads. However, for the impact assessment, important parameters like forest, water bodies, etc., project inflation area taken into which is defined as 7-kilometer buffer on both sides of the road in case of road development or expansion activities. And data collection methods, the baseline environmental condition, GPS survey includes GPS survey, observation schedule, environmental monitoring, and FGT, focus group discussion. Then development of database, interpretation, analysis of environmental condition, and it is basically mostly done on the GIS platform, and extensive use of GPS is done. And these are some of the technical aspects of scaling of environmental impact magnitude and assignment of parameter importance values of all environmental parameters. Like it starts from topography, soil, air quality, noise level, etc., etc. And socioeconomic and cultural environment, society, heritage, culture, etc., tourism, industry, ecological environment. Then all these things goes on like this. Demography, infrastructure, and these are the project routes. I was involved in one sector of Pipili Delang route for the primary survey, and so many maps has been generated. It's just for a glance, how it is done actually. Baseline physical environment and natural resources. Physiography, geology, seismic zones, rainfall regimes. These are the attribute data. Protected forest, reserve forest, then ecologically sensitive environment, like mining activity, zones in Odisha has been created, wildlife, and these are the impact identification matrix. As I have told you, one of the method is matrix, checklist matrix, and these are the priority for environmental concern. The root number has been identified in the left hand, score over 100, score below 100. And these are one of the examples. The buffering Odisha road project like Pullokhara Niali, then Khurda, Jatini and Pipli. Then the demographic database, population, literacy, then infrastructure, we have tourist places, industrial areas, mining activities, female families below poverty line, tribal population, then comes the stakeholder consultation. We have a sheet schedule, questionnaire for the discussion. The few pages are given for the examples. Sample focus group discussion analysis table, how it looks, village, benefits, problems, and suggestion given by the people. These are some of the pictures. This is all. And what I like to conclude is, this is really new, and the concepts and all these things are here. And I think the geographers, as you look at the things, geographers. So my intention is play. You look at the all variables, all things. Geographers can play a major role. That's why to encourage the young geographers. This is a thing done by so many companies where the geographers can involve. As one point, another thing is. It's on the not on the positive side is such a things has been already introduced. The negative side is, as you know already, now when you hire a SIA consultant, it's always a political. They go for the known people, so they will give the report. Another thing also the literatures. If you like to get to the most difficulty, I get these literatures that is not available. That is not available because they actually this is always with the consultant or the companies. They keep it as a secret document. They never share with anybody. It's very difficult. That's another aspect. If you look at these things that you can go or modify, and that also becomes a very difficult. Time is short, so we have other speakers also. So I have to stop it here. Thank you very much. Over to
thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Really, it is very excellent presentations, and in your topics, you have focused many things like concept, principles, and impact, and you have focused on the different examples of the different sites and mentions different variables in different tables. So thank you so much, sir. So I would like to request Sri Pradeep Kumar Mahapatra sir to deliver his speech. Over to sir.
प्रदीप सर माइक ऑन करंतु। सर आपन को वॉइस आसुनी, माइक ऑन
Sir,
करंतु।
unmute. Pradeep sir, unmute your mic.
ଗାର ପଡିଛି ତ ସେଟା କଲି କାହିଁ ହେଲାନି ତ ସେତେବେଳେ ଓକେ ଆସିଗଲା ତ
Aଜ୍ଞା,
ଆସିଗଲା sir.
okay, is it audible now?
Yes sir.
yes, sir.
Okay, I'm supposed to talk about the impact on environment, human impact on environment, and you know already Dr. Nath has explained in detail about all this. The interaction between man and environment has been very complex, particularly while the environment is controlling human activities. On the other hand, man has been a dominant force in changing the physical and biological resources of the earth. That impact I would broadly categorize into three categories. One is modification of the landforms. Second, modification of the atmosphere. And third, modification of the ecosystems. Modifications of the landforms, when we talk about now, particularly because of mining and quarrying, cutting down the forest, deforestation, introduction of new exotic plants, alien plants and animals into your environment, use of agricultural machinery, and various types of buildings, industries, roads, tracks, all this. Even overgrazing of the pastures. All these have individually as well as collectively tried to change the environment and particularly damage the environment. And that is how the landform degradation has taken place. That has resulted in erosion and deposition and ultimately pollution to a large extent. Particularly when we talk about mining, we go for a lot of excavation. And excavation means not only extracting the minerals, but also piling up the extracted load in other areas, which leads to dumping in the areas where it is not desired. And also reclamation of the sea. In a sense, they have reclaimed a large part of the sea. And mining also in many parts causing subsidence. So this is broadly the impact, and Dr. Nath has elaborated. I am not going into that. I am going into a case study which refers to this. The case study is about the Korba, where we have worked. Korba coal mine. You know, Korba coal mine is located in Chhattisgarh. Where very close to the Mand River Valley. It is located on Mand is a tributary to the Mahanadi, and wherein Korba coal mine is located. when we visited, what we saw, the Korba coal mine, the coal is extracted from underground 180 feet below the surface. 180 feet below the surface. So there are shaft mines. There are shaft mines, and of late they have used inclines. And recently, what they have been doing is they are doing surface mining by extracting the load. Now, when we observe shaft mines, the oldest pattern was shaft mines. They have dug tunnels to extract coal. Also, they have taken measures to protect the coal mine from collapse. Unlike Chasnala in Bihar, they have taken all care to check the collapse. There will be no collapse. But what has happened? We went to the surrounding villages, and what we saw is their wells, their ponds are getting dry. All that water is percolating down because there is a hollow underneath. So the people do not get a single crop even. So they have no alternative except working in the mine as laborers. But this is a fertile land, they cannot cultivate. This is one of the impacts that we observe. The second impact that I saw, after they have started surface mining, what they are doing, the overload, they are bringing and dumping on the side of the Mand River, particularly along the hill slope. Mand is passing through hills on either side, and they are dumping the load on the hillside. And what has happened because of that? Not only the vegetation has been lost, the dumped load has gone down into the river and deposited on the river basin. And therefore the river track, the channel has been choked. And in the process, there have been number of occasions of unnecessary floods. That area is never flooded. But because of this, water gets obstructed, and when more water comes in, that load is taken away. Again, there is mass flooding in that particular area. This is another effect that we observe in that area. Now, apart from this, now coal dust. Coal dust has been a menace to pollution, and not only coal dust is dumped, because large pieces of the coal are transported away or used in the local aluminium plant, in the thermal power plant, which is used for producing electricity for the Balco aluminium plant. And so that coal dust and ash is getting deposited in some of the areas, which is creating an environmental havoc. So this is one case I am talking about. The next thing I talked about is modification of the atmosphere. That is a broad global thing. And Dr. Rath has talked about it at length, so I'm not going into the details. So many types of pollution, everybody knows, air pollution, gas pollution, this, that. But I'm going to another important aspect, that is modification of the ecosystem. That is a very important one. Now, as he was referring in the beginning, now agriculture, earlier hunting societies, food gathering societies were not damaging the environment a lot. But once agriculture started, once selection of crops started, once crops started getting planted in certain areas in large numbers, the same plant is magnified. The number of the plant is increased for cultivation. So it is a selection of a plant, and because of the selection of the plant, that plant is, the cultivators emphasized upon cultivating that particular plant, so eliminated all other plants. All other plants were considered weeds, and the animals which used to harm them were pests. So pests were killed, weeds were eliminated, and single crop started, single cropping started. So this monoculture resulted in minimizing the diversity. Now, crop diversity, plant diversity was there, and it was keeping a balance, equilibrium in the environment, in the ecosystem. The ecosystem functions on a balance, not singularly. So ecosystem balance has been lost. There is disequilibrium in the environment. So to check that, what a man does, there is high input of energy in terms of fertilizer, in terms of matter, in terms of machinery, in terms of everything. And that, what did that do? That resulted in massive use of fertilizer. Somebody is saying something? Massive use of fertilizer, massive use of pesticides, massive use of, and that resulted in runoff flow of the pesticides and the fertilizer. What resulted in that, there is a lot of irrigation now because that crop has to be raised. Now, because of that, the fertilizers that flew into the reverse channels made them nutrient rich, and nutrient rich means it led to eutrophication. Eutrophication means unnecessary plants grow and other plants are eliminated. Unnecessary animals survive, other animals are eliminated, and in the process, this monoculture, the tendency of monoculture and cultivation led to damage in the environment. I am giving you another case study, which Dr. Misra is sitting here. We did together. I have been working on it, and he joined me in doing that work. I am referring to Hathi Basin in Kalahandi district. Hathi Basin, you know, the river Hathi originates from the Tuamul Rampur range, but flows into the other side. And which side? Which is the rain shadow area. So the river Hathi has been a dry river. Although it has created a wide basin, but the amount of water that flows through Hathi is very low. And therefore, the type of the environment that Hathi Basin had was almost of a semi-dry land environment. So the people who were cultivating only in limited patches where there is suitable water is available, rice was, paddy was grown, but other areas they were growing variety of pulses and variety of millets. But they were not, so there was a mixture of variety of crops. Now what has happened? Now Indravati has been dammed and a tunnel has been created to generate electricity, and that electricity is generated at Mukhiguda, and the power channel now goes to Mangalpur. There is a barrage which has been created there, and because of creation of barrage, now there is canal irrigation in that whole area. It has led to development. I don't deny that. But what has happened? An erstwhile dry basin has been converted into a wet basin. Now entire ecological system has been overturned. It has become new. A dry basin has become totally wet basin. Totally wet basin where there used to be no frogs, no snakes. Now frogs have come in. So the animal species, other animal species who used to live in the dry conditions, they have vanished. They have vanished. And new animal species who are suitably habitable under the new conditions, those have migrated into this area. Paddy is cultivated at the large scale. Now, I remember sometime back in 1980-81, there used to be ponds, and in the ponds used to get dried up in summer. As April comes, it will get dried up. So now what has happened? The ponds are rich in water. So large fish is being cultivated there. So fish farming It has led to fish farming, but the type of the ecology, ecosystem has totally drastically changed in that environment. What has happened because of this excessive water flow, the Hathi River has created its own channel, and that was because it used to carry very low amount of water. The channel was not enough to carry large amount of water. Now what has happened? Now it is bound to carry large amount of water. Whatever irrigation water flows through the farms, fields, that drains into Hathi now. So Hathi is carrying large amount of water than the capacity of its own channel. So whatever, and Dr. Misra and me, we had gone there and seen how it has caused bank erosion, massive bank erosion. There are landslide-like situations on the bank of Hathi, and which was never witnessed. And there is flooding, mass-scale flooding in that particular area. So these are the impacts of environment, particularly ecological impacts because of modification made by man. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. So you have focused on the modification of land, modification of climate and ecosystem, citing the best examples. So again, thank you, sir. And next, I would like to invite Dr. Ajay Kumar Mishra sir to deliver his speech. Over to sir.
Thank you, Bipin Babu.
Thank you, sir.
Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, Dr. Ratha, Dr. Mahapatra, Dr. Mayor, Registrar Kalan University, Deputy Registrar Kalan University, Captain Jaidev, and good afternoon, everybody. You know, to be very frank, half of the topic has been covered by my teacher, Professor Mahapatra, which I am going to present. And half of the topic, in fact, has been covered by Dr. Ratha. So anyway, the topic is environmental impact assessment, a case study of Kolang. You know, in both the cases that you have heard till now, the environmental impact assessment, as told and as understood, is little bit different what I am going to take. My submission is EIA or SIA is a process of evaluation of key environmental impact of a proposed project. You know, as Dr. Ratha was telling, he was involved with the railway project, he was involved with the road project, he was involved with a mining project also. Before a project is made, it is part of the EIA and SIA to calculate, to project, to predict, to evaluate the possible impact of that project on the environment, that is on the land, on air around, on water around, on the vegetation, like that. And similarly, the social impact or social impact of that project, the project that's going to happen is going to be executed, what are the likely impact of that project on the social aspect of the society on which it is likely to pass through, effect or damage. That is economic life, their cultural life, their health, their lifestyle, like that. So these two things are mostly done in two manners. Next, Dr. Mayor, third slide. Third slide, Dr. Mayor. Dr. Mayor. Next. Look at this objective. The objective is to identify the project level EIA. So whenever a project is made, it has to prepare the EIA. And always the EIA is accompanied by a EMP, Environmental Management Plan. If it is calculated, if it is identified, if it is projected that these are the likely effect of the project on the environment, then that project is to be also supplemented by a environmental impact assessment, environmental management plan, so that the effect of the project on the environment is minimized. So also the environmental management plan also makes certain recommendations so that that project can implement in the social aspect, social life of the people around it, so that their economy, their culture, their health is protected, their interest is protected. Now, in order to govern the EIA, there are certain legislation. Dr. Rotho has started telling about the legislation. From the typical legislation, the Odisha Minor Mineral Concession Act. Odisha Minor Mineral Concession Act. In 2017, it is made. It is prior to this also. 2017 also it was made. So why I am talking about 2017 is because in 2017 it became mandatory for the state government to make environmental assessment bodies at the state level as well as at the district level. At the state level, it was known as State Environmental Impact Assessment Authority. At the district level, it was known as District Environmental Impact Committee, Impact Assessment Committee, District Environmental Impact Assessment Committee. So, as per the Act of 2017, it was mandatory on the part of the state government to make state level body and district level body. In order to govern that Act, OMMC rules were made in 2017 also. So, all those mining activity that is taking place in the state is governed by this Minor Mineral Concession Act of 2017. However, this act has been again amended in 2020, and the OMMC rules and act has come in 2020 also, that I will come a little bit later on. As per this act, a small project like maybe a sand lifting in the riverbed, maybe a crusher for the stone crusher, a granite leach for a stone crusher, maybe a granite leach for granite polishing, maybe murum leach, maybe graphite leach, maybe quartz leach. All those minor minerals that exist in the district are being governed. So before it is given to the person on lease, they are supposed to make an environmental assessment and environmental plan. Now let me specifically say something. Now it is said in case of a crusher, it is said that it should be not less than 1 kilometer away from the human habitation. Not in the reserve forest or forested land in the region. The area must be not less than 5 hectares of land. Maximum area is 25 hectares of land. If 25 hectares is to be made, maybe, then it can be 5 hectares and 25 hectares can be made. But each page should not be separated from one, and should not be separated from other page more than 200 meters. These are some of the stipulations. Now, the second stipulation says there should not be a highway or a road, major road, 500 meters of the site, proposed site. There should not be any electricity, heavy installations, or what they call it, heavy electricity lines in the 100 meter vicinity of the project. So, and there should be no river along the project. But in many cases, you will find that it has been violated. My objective today is to say what Pradeep sir has already started about the Hathi River. What happened to Hathi? How the endowment of Hathi has created problem for the people around it. Now, as Pradeep sir has already said, Hathi River originates from the South Kalandri district mountains. It travels for about Dr. Mayor, 7 number with next. Bas. Thank you. So, as Pradeep sir has already said, the Hathi was a small river flowing for about 40 kilometers somewhere near north of Mukheguda, and it reaches Tel Nadi about 5 kilometers north of Junagadh. The total travel area or the length of the river is about 40 kilometers. But now, after 1995, after the Upper Indravati project has come up, Hathi River has been converted into the natural power channel of Upper Indravati project. That is why huge amount of water is now flowing through Hathi to River Tel. The other thing is that the large amount of water that is being served to the for the purpose of irrigation, they are also drained to the Hathi River. So Hathi River is a power channel that produces electricity, and the water from the surplus water from the agricultural land are also drained to River Hathi. In both the cases, Hathi volume has increased. Because volume has increased, the alacrity has increased. If the alacrity has increased, then the chemical precipitation has also increased. So all it is erosion and the widening of the river bed. As Pradeep sir was telling, because it was almost in a old crystal bed, it can't keep old. So while belly widening, the left bank of the river are cut, and because of toe cutting, almost in every year, per year 2-3 feet is extended toward the left. So what happens in the right? Next slide. Next slide. You can see, the Google Maps says how it has gone about 10 kilometers that crossing is there. After that, it goes in a very meandering way. Hardly any river you might find that it is almost naturally meanders are formed, and it goes due north and reaches River Tel beyond Junagadh, north of Junagadh. The right map that is shown is a satellite map where it is the source of this map is the mining officer. You can take note of it or make a photocopy. Later you can see there are dots, there are numbers from 34 to 44. From 34 to 44, 11 places have been identified by government himself. For what? That these are on the right side, and the right bank of the river, Hathi River, is deposited with huge quantities of sand. This quantity, the left bank is eroded, the right bank is alternatively deposited with sand. Now, when sand is deposited, government has been, government is happy to lease all those lands as minor minerals. The sand is also considered as a minor mineral. So the sand is given on lease for sand lifting. What we call in Oriya is a Sairat. The Sairat is given on lease. Now, once these Sairat are given on lease, the right bank, people are using officially and unofficially. The officially allotted area and even non-officially on the non-allotted area, although 11 sites have been identified, 11 places have been given on lease. We have seen with Pradeep sir that there are about 21 places where large scale sand mining is done. Now, when sand mining is done these days, sand mining is done with the help of machines. They put JCB there, JCB load it on the tractor. So, in this process of JCB going and coming, tractor going and coming, in many places you will find that the right bank has been leveled in the level of the habitation in many places. Thereby, the result is that the impact is that in prior to 2000, what we have seen prior to 2000, there are only 3 skills in the right bank. And these skills were occasionally flooded during the heavy rain or continuous rain in the rainy season. Nowadays, in 2020, that we've seen, there are 21 skills and 21 skills they cause flood, not only once in a month, once in a season, almost 3 times in a season. And in 10 location it becomes very severe. So from one witness that was affected,
You are not audible, sir.
That was affected. Now that about 10 villages are affected. There are about 600 people affected in that village. But now almost 5,000 people are affected by the flood. 10 villages and 5,000 lost. 5,000 people. Now, where government has prepared the lease has prepared, who has taken the lease, person has prepared the environmental impact assessment. He has never forecasted that there will be flood. That there will be erosion. That there will be, damage to life and property in the bank, in the nearby habitation. So, but now that we've seen that such things are happening, so we propose that the EMP has not been read properly. In no cases, why in case of Harti River, there are many places where the land is mined, like in Nadi, in Kaching area, in many other areas, in Badavara, more than 200 sites where sand is mined in Kolandi, but EMP is not prepared. Even if EMP is prepared, all the recommendations in the EMP are not being implemented.
What happened? Manoj,
Yes, sir.
see what is happening.
Now audio is coming. Maybe something problem with the Mr. Sir.
Dr. Mayor,
Sir.
Sorry, 9 minutes. We can
अरे
proceed to
प्रदीप भाई
conclude.
फोन कर शुभ नदेला बोली जे
हाँ सर सुबह मते लास्ट मिनट सुबह गले किस संभव
ठीक
but
है
now your voice is coming.
हाँ
Maybe some technical problem. Now your voice is coming, but in between last 5 minutes we are unable to hear you.
ओहो तो कौन करिबा
कान करमा सर से तारे कान हुचे कान ने केंते की जन्मा
बस बस बस, चलो ना
ନା ଏବେ ତ ଆସିଲା ସାର୍ ଭଲ ଭଏସ୍ ଆସିଲା
और नेक्स्ट चलो नेक्स्ट नेक्स्ट चेंज मैंने
ଜି
हिमांशु
सर
Thank you.
नेक्स्ट नेक्स्ट बाकी जा क्वेश्चन आंसर को
Sir, thank you, sir. You have discussed about the environmental impact assessment citing the Hathi Nadi of Palahandi district. So now the session is the constructive discussion sessions. Now I will request our one and only the dynamic Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Sanjay Kumar Satpathy sir, to give his address to the webinars.
It's my proud privilege. Three luminaries are there with us. We listen to them. And typically when we talk of the environment, I can see two things. One is the external environment and second is the internal environment, the assessment of which cannot be done. My revered guest will definitely agree to that. But my listeners have listened for a long time, so let me give a twist. Today, the 12th May, is the International Nurses Day, the anniversary of Florence Nightingale. Let's remember her on this day. And yesterday was the National Technology Day. The problem which have come up regarding this environmental assessment, if I remember correctly, after 1984 Bhopal gas tragedy, in 1986 the Environmental Protection Act was framed and that was running. In 2020 this environmental impact assessment, the draft frame was there, but particularly on the issue of the post approval of the environmental assessment has made many questions from many quarters, and the sustainability of this is a question mark. So coming to the Technology Day theme, the theme of this year is Science and Technology for a Sustainable Future. So when we talk of sustainability, the environmental impact carries a very great role on this. And what I remember, there is a book, 5 Minds for the Future, by Howard Gardner. Remembering that book, let us remember the enlightenment of Lord Buddha, the curiosity and the desire increased to go into the details of the book. So there are 5 minds which are to be hinted upon. One is a disciplinary mind, second is a synthesizing mind, third is a creating mind, fourth is a respectable mind, and fifth is the ethical mind. Work with integrity and succeed with integrity. So if we develop in all our students the 5 capacities, we can produce self-directed, self-controlled, lifelong learners who will have the capacity to both respect authority and at the same time is capable of questioning authority in an appropriate manner. So, these are the leaders who work together as a self-organizing network and transform any nation into a prosperous nation. Now, coming a bit less, they can be together as a self-organizing network and transform my university to a prosperous university. The most important part of the education is to be imbibe the confidence, the spirit of we can do it among the students, among the faculty, among the stakeholders. So, I'm happy to listen this. Actually, the topic might have gone overhead of the three giant presentators. That's why I had told, and it has been also communicated to the students, let them read something about this impact assessment so that they can understand, they can get the benefit of this talk. Automatically, listening is a very difficult activity. Once you cannot arouse interest within you, you cannot listen for 2 hours. So, I again thank my guests for being with my students, my teachers, and I again hint upon the word which is there, that is assessment. Let's go for internal assessment, self-assessment, and in particularly the time of COVID, as I told you in the beginning, there are many students in last 37 years, but some are very close because of their dedication, because of their commitment, because of their attitude. One of such students suffered in COVID for 3 days and expired last night. I got the news. So the time spent with him automatically made me depressed for some time. So I became late for 300 seconds. Then immediately I lost him because team is always much more than an individual. So I again thank all my students in particular, because for them only we are organizing such seminars so that they will get wage. And my PG students, they definitely they have found out, they have got the vibration that this is one area where they can research more, and we are connected with these stalwarts in the subject, and my faculties are there also. They can proceed on with this. With these words, again thanking everybody, thanking the three giant speakers of the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sas. Your each and every valuable word inspires us and feels oxygen in our body. Thank you so much. Thank you. So our next session is a vote of thanks. So I deem it grand honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks on this memorable occasions. So let me first of all start by giving the glory to the Almighty God for making today's webinar a grand success. So first and foremost, I express heartfelt thanks to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Sanjay Kumar Satpathy sir, who gave time to glorify these webinars and share his views on these occasions. I thank to our esteemed registrar to grace the webinars by giving vote of thanks address. We are grateful to our esteemed keynote speakers, Professor Dr. Krishna Chandra Ratha sir, for his valuable for his valuable talk on EIA and SIA, its concept, principles, and case studies. I thank Sri Pradeep Kumar Mahapatra sir for sharing his views on some case studies, of environmental impact assessment. I thank Sri Dr. Ajay Kumar Mishra sir for his presentations of the topic EIA and citing the case study of Kalahan district. So I thank to Dr. Manoj Kumar Meher sir, Assistant Professor of our department, for his nice introductions of our esteemed dignitaries. So I owe special gratitude to all the dignitaries of our universities and the colleges of Kalahan University, other university, and all geography lovers who are in virtual modes for their patience and consistency. Last but not least, I thank to my students who make the webinars more success. Thanks. So before wind up the programs, I request to our Vice Chancellor to speak few inspiring words for these occasions.
Manoj, I request my students in particular, you can direct them. At least 5 of them should write the abstract of today's talks, what they listened, what they got, the takeaways from this seminar, and that will be most valuable, and you can sum it up. Maybe we can distribute some of the things, we can place it in some write-up sometime. We are going to publish our newsletter for next month, so there it can be placed. So
Yes, sir.
thank you all. Tomorrow at 11 o'clock we have a seminar of the Commerce Department on financial literacy. I again welcome you all to come, and the day after, on Friday at 4 o'clock we are starting the motivational lecture series. We'll be starting with Srikant Chatterjee, the retired Income Tax Commissioner, Mumbai, and a columnist, and a down-to-earth leader from the beginning. We'll start with Srikant Chatterjee, and the next week we are getting somebody from Rishikesh. So for that, Jayadev is coordinating all the retired educationists of Kalahandi and Nuapada. We are trying to tap them and bring in the bracket in this motivational lecture series that will be every Friday. This time it is 4 to 5. Next time, as per the availability of the guests, it may change, but the time will tentatively be from 4 to 5. So again, thank all of you and wish be safe, be cautious. Your health is more important for the world. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So now we will wind up the sessions. Thanks to all.
Sir, namaskar to all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Samasta